lesson plans. We don't have time to read a whole lot before the kids first come in. So we really need something concise and to the point, maybe numbered or bulleted. That would really be helpful.
The most important thing that a teacher can leave for a substitute is a very concise, to the point lesson plan for each class period that includes the duties that the teacher has, as well as time frames for each class period and each duty.
A clear schedule of any duty the teacher has.
Adequate information when a sub goes into the classroom, be it given to them by the administrator or available on their desk, for example, in a binder. I've even had binders where that day's letter and lesson plans were there, but specifically attendance records, the rules for procedures, all of that, the maps if you're going to a different school, anything that is something necessary to make that sub feel comfortable for that day.
Lesson plans that are to the point and not so broad. Sometimes teachers give us too much information and it kind of gets in our way. Having enough to keep the kids busy is very important, because oftentimes they run out of stuff to do and then we don't really know what to do with them after that, and that can lead to disruptions.
One, to have a clear sub plan for the day, for the period class, something that's going to keep them busy the entire time. We use a lot of technology today, and sometimes it doesn't work, or it's not charged, or they didn't bring it. So a backup plan for that. I would use the example of hard copies of paperwork.
Right, there are a couple of other things that would really make a sub's life easier. One is answer keys. And even though you're in a classroom, maybe in your subject area, it would be nice to have an answer key there. Especially when you're not in your subject area, you really need an answer key. And if it's a problem that has steps to it, it would even be nice to have those steps shown so that you could see how to get from the question to the final answer. So that would be extremely helpful.
A lot of times the teacher will leave me, students that are helpful, students that I need to keep an eye on, and things like that. So that's helpful going in knowing who's who and how the classroom dynamics work. And try to give me an idea of if there's certain students that can't sit together, or just how they want the room laid out. If there's couches and chairs, if they're allowed to sit in those things, if they're not allowed, things like that. That is the number one thing that's the hardest.
Right. The other thing that is helpful is that if the teacher lets you know a couple of kids in each class who are the good kids who could probably help you, the ones that you could send the roll with to the office, because sometimes those kids that want to go are not really the ones that should be out of the classroom. If we had actually a list of the students who were to leave early for the bus and come in late for the bus, because when the teacher just says some kids leave, there are kids that try to leave that are not supposed to leave. So it'd be very nice to know exactly who those kids are that are supposed to be up and leaving, or those that will be coming in late. Although that hasn't happened very often, one thing that has happened that is not very good is the fact that you don't have enough copies, and you're having to run between class periods and make copies so that you will have enough for the kids. The other thing is coming into a classroom where there's nothing left for the sub, like pencils, paper, so that we can write notes, so that you could write some concise notes for each little classroom.
I would say that having enough copies and supplies for the students is very beneficial to a substitute. If you could leave pencils and pens and markers that work, that would be very beneficial.
Lack of supplies, markers are the main thing.
Messy desks can sometimes be a distraction for a substitute teacher. I've been in classrooms where there's not even a space where I can put down my materials. There's not even a space where I can leave comments for the teacher because the desk is just covered with debris. So if you could leave a clean desk, that really helps a whole lot.
If you go into a classroom and you don't have all the information you need, or if it's not in one place, I don't feel comfortable digging around trying to pull all of that together.
And not really having a good place where I can sit without infringing on the other teachers, the regular teachers' space. If there's a place where I can sit down and not get into the teachers' stuff, that kind of was a problem sometimes. Lesson plans sometimes were not there. Had to go get lesson plans from another teacher. Had to do that before. And I understand things happen sometimes, so, but that doesn't happen very often. And oftentimes, when there's not a backup plan, that can cause problems. So if we have a backup plan we can go to, if there's an emergency for a teacher, that will help us too. So. When we have advisory period, we don't, as subs, have access to the types of computers that can access the system. So we have to sometimes get out and find a teacher who has it that we can move our kids to, and sometimes that gets complicated. So it would be helpful to have a teacher where we could name that we could send these students to when we have advisory period. That would help us quite a bit.
Schedule for the day. A lot of times I'm not sure what time the class ends, and I'm scrambling around looking for the block lunch schedule, the pep rally schedule. It needs to be in the packet, available. A lot of teachers put it on the wall, but sometimes there's so much stuff to look at that you can't find it.
So when we're having special events, we need to have all the good information about that, where we're supposed to go, when we're supposed to go. And sometimes you have kids that go early and some kids that late. So we kind of need to know about that. Oh yes, makes it much easier because once you send your attendance sheet to the office, you don't have the names of the kids, and it helps to have pictures because you can relate those names to those students when you call on them, when you have to call on them. Big help.
One of the most important things that I would like to see in a classroom is a list of the students with pictures, because once you turn in your roll sheet, it's very difficult to know who the kids are. So it's very nice to have a copy of the roll sheet.
So I love when I have a roster with the pictures, because the kids love to tell you, oh no, I'm so-and-so, I'm so-and-so, and I have no way of knowing unless there's a picture of them with their name. Seating chart if there is one.
Yes, it is easier. With attendance sheets, if I'm calling roll by pictures, I know if students and they have seating charts, I know that they're in the right seat and I know who that student is. If there is a discipline issue, sometimes you don't know who the student is, and sometimes students will not tell you who that student is. So it would be very helpful, and it definitely helps with attendance.
Just any seating chart that is up to date benefits a substitute, because once those roll sheets are sent to the office, you no longer have the names of the students. So if you have an up-to-date seating chart with names and faces, that helps you. You can call on students by name or discipline them by name, and a name is powerful.